Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Women with Controlling Partners, Taking Back Your Life from a Manipulative or Abusive Partner by Carol A. Lambert, MSW. Narrated by Tina Wolstencroft. Publisher's Note: this audiobook refers to a diagram included in the print and ebook editions of the book. Instead of abandoning ourselves, we can learn to inhabit ourselves. The body is tremendously homesick for us, and it waits patiently for our return. Denise Taylor. Introduction. Sitting in a recovery group for women with controlling partners, a 33-year-old teacher named Maggie leans forward in her chair and says, "My closest friend told me she was worried about me and my relationship. I couldn't believe it. I know my husband can be outspoken, a bit self-righteous, and hard to argue with, but I never thought of him as controlling." Maggie purses her lips. "I'm not sure, but I am too nervous to tell him I'm attending this group. In fact, I asked Carol to leave a cryptic message regarding the time and place of the group sessions so he wouldn't find out. It then dawned on me that I'm intimidated by him. I'm here to figure out just what's happening in my relationship." Women with Controlling Partners is for people like Maggie, perhaps like you, who need to get clear about their experience with an intimate partner, whether a boyfriend, girlfriend, or spouse. With the help of this book, listeners can become informed about controlling relationships, learn of the impact on their own mental and physical health, and through a recovery process can become empowered to work toward a healthy relationship and recognize what's possible with their partner. During 2 decades of facilitating recovery groups for women with controlling partners, my colleague Hadley Fisk, MSW, and I have listened to more than 1,000 women speak about being overpowered by a partner. While each woman experiences a unique ordeal, together they tell the same saga. A slow, insidious, and nearly invisible condition of coercion entraps a woman within her most intimate relationship. So well hidden, this entrapment can go undetected even by the woman herself. The deceptive twist is that it is the most unlikely person, the one from whom she expects caring and love, who creates conditions that slowly diminish her spirit and sense of self, who she is. Being unaware of what is happening, she naturally minimizes and denies the problems with her intimate partner. At the same time, the experience causes a loss of self-esteem and trust in her own perception, making it even more difficult to see the truth. Ultimately, she feels she is losing herself, or parts of herself. A controlling partner can make her feel crazy when she's not. Many women encountering non-physical types of abuse experience grave psychological and physical health symptoms. They do not attribute these symptoms to the abuse they endure, mainly because psychological abuse does not leave a visible bruise or scar. But it is deeply hurtful and can be identified when you know what to look for. The fact that you've picked up this book means you already know a little about how it feels to be with a controlling partner. What you may not yet know about is the process by which you can recover. The word recover means the return of something that has been lost. This book will help you get yourself back and recapture the parts of yourself that you have lost along the way. Once you reach a place of understanding your experience and trusting your perception, you can feel empowered to act in your own best interest. You will benefit from this book wherever your relationship falls on the spectrum of minor to moderate to severe levels of control. If you are unsure whether your partner controls you, this book can help you assess what's happening. If you have been with a controlling partner in the past and feel plagued by fears of being hurt again, Women with Controlling Partners can help you recover and know what behaviors to watch out for. Friends and family members who are concerned about someone with a controlling partner can gain knowledge and be in a better position to offer support. This book can also help mental health and medical professionals, clergy, and others who work with women at risk to provide informed care for those they serve. The story of my work. In 1992, when my colleague Hadley Fisk and I sought training in a battered women's shelter, mental health professionals were not paying attention to domestic violence. Yet at the time, abuse by a husband was the leading cause of injury for women. That year, we conducted a review of clinical literature that became the backdrop for creating a unique, group-based model for treating women and controlling relationships. We called the model Recovery Groups for Women with Controlling Partners. In the group sessions, we felt deeply privileged to witness the women's courage as they engaged the recovery work, and to witness, as they got stronger, their transformations. From this experience, our passion grew and compelled us to raise awareness about domestic violence and, in particular, psychological abuse. We embarked on a journey of presenting and educating to community-based organizations and professionals in medicine, mental health, and law. We helped establish the first Committee on Domestic Violence in our professional organization, National Association of Social Workers, NASW. I wrote an article for their newsletter titled, The Abuse of Women by Male Partners. Where are all the social workers? Over the years, as our recovery groups gained attention, the encouragement to put what we learned into a book increased. I wrote this book so that what we learned in our groups could become a tool or lifeline for individual women and listeners everywhere. Psychological abuse, like physical abuse, is used to gain power and control over an intimate partner. Unlike physical abuse, it is hard to see because it happens with words and demeanor, without physical contact, yet it is undeniable due to the psychological harm it causes. When we began our work, the prevalence and seriousness of psychological abuse, also known as emotional or mental abuse, was an enormous eye-opener for us. We witnessed that the controlling behaviors in an intimate relationship that constitute psychological abuse were more frequent than physical abuse. We came to know firsthand how anyone, irrespective of ethnicity, socioeconomic circumstances, religion, education, age, marital status, or the presence of children, could find herself with a controlling partner. We listened as women shared poignant descriptions of being in a fog, explained their profound feelings of guilt and self-blame, and coined terms like domestic hostage. Their feedback taught us what methods helped them to take back control over their lives. Recovery is your best option for feeling better. By following the 3 stages of recovery outlined in this book, you can move through the same beneficial process as the 1,000 women who have participated in our groups throughout the years. In stage 1, you start from a place of not seeing. In stage 2, you move to seeing clearly enough to know how deeply you're trapped. And then in stage 3, you learn how to free yourself. You shift from minimizing and denying to recognizing how your partner's behavior falls within the realm of psychological abuse. By learning the coercive tactics, misuses of power and control, and their hidden injuries, you can identify the tactics at play in your partner's behavior. When you do, their powerful effects start to lessen. You will hear how these coercive tactics are hurtful and can render you confused, fearful, and unable to act in your own best interest. Understanding your own responses to the hidden injuries of psychological abuse is an important part of recovery. The more clarity you gain about yourself and your relationship, the more compelled you'll become to finish the recovery process that gets you back to yourself, a stronger self. Exercise. Is your partner controlling? Here is a brief exercise with 5 questions that illustrate what psychological abuse can look like in action, and that will help you recognize whether your partner's behavior is controlling. As you go through each question, recognize how often you are on the receiving end of this behavior from your partner. Is it rarely or never? Sometimes? Often? Or very often? Does your partner criticize you and put down what you say or do? Does your partner look at you in a way that non-verbally communicates a dislike or disgust for you? Does your partner blame you, even for things you couldn't possibly be responsible for? Does your partner refuse to take responsibility or blame for his own behavior? Does your partner behave in a way that intimidates you? Take a moment to review your responses. If you responded with often or very often for all or any of the questions, there's a likelihood that your partner uses controlling behavior. Although this can feel disheartening, at the same time, recognize that knowing more can help you. If you responded sometimes, it might be in your best interest to explore his behaviors further to see what they are and how they adversely affect you, even a little. Exercise. How do controlling behaviors affect you? The following 4 questions will help you look at your reactions to your partner's behavior. With controlling behaviors that are hard to see, their impact on your feelings and reactions speak volumes about your partner's behavior. Again, for each question, recognize how often you feel and think this way. Is it rarely or never? Sometimes? Often? Or very often? Do you feel like you're in a fog, confused, and not functioning at your best? Do you feel responsible and blame yourself for the problems with your partner and relationship? Are you more tense or uneasy when your partner is around? Are you careful about what you say or do around your partner because of how he might react and what he might say? Now take a look at your responses. It's worthwhile to pay attention to the feelings that occur often or very often. When you're with a controlling partner, these answers indicate that you're experiencing negative effects from your partner's behavior. I hope you can realize that it's in your best interest to take this seriously. If you feel something sometimes and you're unsure but wish to get clear about your intimate relationship, then explore further. In either case, help is resting in your hands. Let your commitment grow. As women work through the recovery process described in this book, they start reclaiming who they are and learn to trust their feelings and judgment again. These important benefits keep women engaged because the more they learn, the more interested and committed they become in changing their lives. If you stay with the process, I believe you will also have this experience. In Women with Controlling Partners, I have included many stories from the women who have attended my groups. Although revealing details are changed to protect their privacy, these women strongly wish to share their experiences because they know you can learn and benefit from other women as they did. See yourself in their stories and use their experience to help you understand your situation. Use this experience to know you are not alone. When your feelings and experiences are validated by what you hear, pause a moment to fully take it in. I encourage you to do all the exercises. Keep a journal or notebook with you as you listen and work through the chapters. Following through with recovery will benefit you in many ways, including self-awareness and personal strength, qualities necessary to successfully address the issues in your relationship. About this book. Since women in heterosexual relationships experience abuse almost 5 times more often than men, this book focuses on women. If you're in a gay relationship or are a man abused by a controlling woman, whether currently or in the past, this book is for you as well. Despite my focus on relationships with her as the targeted person and him as the controller, all abusive relationships are important and need to be taken seriously. This book will move you through the same 3 stages that my recovery group participants have journeyed. In stage 1, become aware, recognize the problem, you'll determine for sure whether your intimate partner is controlling. Gaining this awareness allows you to move out of denial or minimization, take your intimate partner's control seriously, and understand it as psychological abuse that's deeply hurtful. It's critical to obtain this awareness, the first step to improving your life, before you can understand the full depth of your experience with your partner or spouse. Stage 2, deconstruct what holds you captive, breaking free, helps you examine your dating period, understand how control by a partner slowly gets started, know how the cycle of abuse creates false hope for change, and identify specific coercive tactics so you can see them in your partner's behaviors. Through this process, you recognize how your partner's behaviors disempower you through the hidden injuries that impact your mental and physical health. This is the core of recovery, and during this stage you learn how psychological abuse results from coercive persuasion or brainwashing, which alter your thoughts and feelings and keep you trapped through a loss of trust in your own perception. By recognizing the negative beliefs about yourself that you developed as a result of your partner's abuse, you can begin to take back your strengths, feel as good about yourself as you did prior to meeting your partner, or even better, and attend to the thoughts and feelings that you suppressed to minimize his abusive reactions. You'll then move on to stage 3, reclaim yourself. Only you know what's best for you. When you can embrace your new level of awareness, grow trust for your own judgment, and feel empowered to decide what is in your best interest going forward. Ultimately, your new strength will help you play an important role in determining what you want and discover what's possible with your partner. The book concludes with a helpful resource section. You'll benefit most by following the self-growth process, guided in the progression of chapters as you listen to the book straight through, from beginning to end. I recommend that you take the time to do this for yourself. You're worth it. Now I invite you to take a step toward help and healing. I wish you well in your recovery. Chapter 1. Control in relationships causes hidden injuries. To pick up this book is, in itself, an act of courage. I applaud you. With this book, you're doing something for yourself, a huge step for women with controlling partners. If you have a pretty strong sense that your partner is controlling, then I know you have some fear or trepidation about exploring this issue. If you are wondering whether this is your situation, then it's great that you are taking a step to explore further. In either case, you might worry about your partner finding out. If so, your worry is telling you something worth paying attention to about you and your partner. In the next chapter, as you begin the recovery process, I will share strategies for protecting yourself to reduce your worry while you work through the stages in this book. Almost everyone starts this process with some level of denying or minimizing the problem. Your first challenge is to be open to the overview information in this chapter and start to look at how psychological abuse might be part of your life now or in the past. Imagine this exploration as a gentle unfolding, a gradual opening to new insights about you, your partner, and your relationship. Abuse is about power and control. At times I hear women say, "I wish he would hit me, because I know that's wrong, and then I could do something about it." It's what Amy, a 28-year-old mother of a young child, hesitantly said. She quickly added, "I'm not sure if I should be here. I've never been hit. He's a good father, but just isn't nice to me." She lowered her head. Perhaps I'm making too much of it. But, as Amy would eventually learn, a good father doesn't abuse the mother of his children. Without pause, a woman who walked with a limp and wore a finger brace responded, "I've been beaten. I have a broken tooth and 2 fractured fingers, but the emotional abuse is far worse than this." Whether psychological or physical, abuse is about one thing: control. Your intimate partner's mission is to take control in the relationship and gain power over you. Dominating you is his main interest, and he doesn't need physical abuse to accomplish it. Because physical acts of abuse and threats of physical violence in an intimate relationship are legally classified as criminal behavior and often labeled as domestic violence or intimate partner violence, people often assume that if there is no physical violence or threat presence, no abuse is taking place. As our society has become more educated and intolerant of physical violence, controlling men use psychological abuse and claim, "I've never hit her," and insist, "I'm not abusive." Clearly, physical violence has our attention. However, it is not nearly the whole story of abuse. Psychological abuse harms with hidden injuries. If your partner strikes you, you can actually feel the abuse. The pain in your head or back or stomach tells you where you've been hurt. Psychological abuse harms with hidden injuries that are not readily seen or easily identified. These injuries are quite serious and can affect your life dramatically because they target a woman's thoughts, feelings, and how she sees things. They will affect her sense of self, her view of the relationship, and her connection with the world surrounding her. This is why psychological abuse impacts your psyche and sense of well-being to the same extent as physical abuse. Recent statistics reveal how frequently psychological abuse occurs and that we are paying attention to it more now than in the past. Nearly half of all women in the U.S. have experienced at least one form of psychological aggression by an intimate partner during their lifetime. Women identified verbal aggression such as their partner's angry gestures that seemed dangerous, being degraded, insulted, or humiliated, or their partner's use of coercive control. Since psychological abuse is hard to see, and nearly 1 out of 2 women experience it in some form, we all benefit from knowing what it looks like, so we're prepared to recognize it and respond accordingly. Betty was a thoughtful, tired-looking mother of 3 grown children who lived in a comfortable suburban community with her husband of 34 years. She had endured serious physical violence for years. Betty reported being slapped, punched, pushed, restrained, and thrown against a wall. But while the physical abuse had ended years ago, the psychological abuse had never receded. Even though she no longer felt constantly at risk of being physically assaulted, her husband's daily emotional assaults were wearing her down. Her husband no longer hit her, but other than that, little had changed within the relationship. Betty hoped to learn how her marriage was making her feel sick and tired. Psychological abuse hurts deeply. Psychological abuse, the aspect of domestic violence that's the most elusive, endangers women the most. Fortunately, since the late 1990s, research that reveals psychological abuse and its harmful effects has been increasing. We now know that women can experience ongoing trauma, which causes them to develop serious physical and mental health problems. One research study showed that their physical health problems resemble those of women who experience physical violence. And women facing psychological abuse are twice as likely to identify physical health issues as the women who are not abused. Some of the physical conditions women suffer include chronic pain, headaches, stomach ulcers, and urinary tract infections, all of which make living life feel even more uncomfortable. An even bigger consequence is the traumatic impact psychological abuse has on mental health. Even subtle psychological abuse, undermining, discounting, without overt psychological abuse, dominating, demeaning, or violence, can be traumatizing. In fact, subtle psychological abuse correlates more with women's emotional states than acts of sexual and physical violence. Here are what the studies say. Psychologically abused women experience depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem. Psychologically abused women score lower on self-efficacy, which is how empowered a woman feels to make a difference, than women who are not abused. When psychological abuse is compared to physical violence and other types of abuse, psychological abuse shows up as the strongest predictor of post-traumatic stress disorder. Psychological abuse by far makes people more fearful than any other type of abuse. A controlling partner who ridicules personal traits, criticizes, controls activities, and ignores their partner causes a loss of self-esteem. These findings make a strong case that when you live with a controlling partner, it's just not possible to feel well or to be at your best because you're at a very high risk for a multitude of health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder. Take a moment to pay attention to how you might be feeling given what you just learned. All the ways you can be impacted can be unsettling to hear. There is one condition in particular I want to highlight. While your feelings of self-efficacy, feeling empowered to make a difference, may be low, that terrible feeling of powerlessness is something that you can change. The hurtful impact of psychological abuse makes it all the more important for you to educate yourself, since by becoming informed, you can initiate a shift that can help you start to feel some control. This book can help you create this shift as you move to knowing, and then feeling stronger and empowered. Then you will have the best chance to take back control of your life. Exercise. How do you feel? I want to ask some questions about how you feel. As you go through each question, recognize how often you feel this way. Is it rarely or never? Sometimes, often, or very often? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel fearful? Do you feel worse about yourself now than before the relationship started? Do you feel you cannot make a difference in your relationship? If you answered often or very often, your partner is likely to be controlling, and his abuse has negatively affected your self-efficacy and your self-esteem. If you answered sometimes to most questions, you want to keep your mind open. Recognize that these conditions and your responses indicate there's a possibility your partner is controlling and you're experiencing the effects of that. You need to learn more to be sure. Your low self-esteem is a controlling partner's best protection. It's important to know that your feelings of low self-esteem and poor self-worth, caused or exacerbated by your partner's behavior, work in his best interest. Research reveals that under these conditions, women are more likely to attribute the abuse they receive to their own personal traits and are less apt to see it as a problem with the relationship or their partner. As you experience psychological abuse, you lose confidence and self-esteem. Once this occurs, you are more likely to hold yourself responsible for the problems in the relationship, including, at times, the abuse you endure. Your self-blame can become your controlling partner's smokescreen. Blaming yourself for abuse is common for women with a controlling partner. Your issue is not that you are at fault. Your issue is that you are taking on the blame erroneously. We are all responsible for our own choices, including what we say and do. Your partner's abuse is his responsibility and his alone. I know this will take time to believe. That's okay. In time, you'll get there. Psychological abuse needs to be taken seriously by everyone in our society. It's destructive and devastating in a number of ways to the one targeted. Yet, as one woman pointed out, psychological abuse is not illegal. In the end, women need to take steps to protect themselves. Recovery makes you stronger by helping you get very clear who is responsible for what in your relationship. This is one of the most important tasks to accomplish in order to feel better. How psychological abuse works. A controlling partner takes control by using psychological abuse tactics that coerce and persuade you to his way of thinking. In her well-received book, Brainwashing the Science of Thought Control, Kathleen Taylor explains that when an individual uses abusive tactics.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?